This webcast talks about how to use the Balance app as you plan for what you're going to be involved in next year. This app, which is located on the curriculum guide page in PowerSchool, and you can see it here over on the right-hand side of this page. It says click the link below to use the Balance app. So you'll click here and it will open up a spreadsheet which looks like this. The purpose of this app is to see or to add up and show you the cumulative hours each week that your chosen classes, clubs, sports, and other activities are going to ask from you. And I'm going to show you on the last tab of this spreadsheet has a pie chart which kind of breaks down how much time you have in any given week. And you know, there's some things that you just have to do. For example, you're in school 5 days a week from 8 to 3:10. So that adds up to almost 38 hours, or about 38 hours a week. All of your standard classes assume about a half hour of homework between classes, as well as maybe an hour and a half to study for quizzes and tests. And so that adds up to almost 16 hours per week. That's for standard classes, even if you didn't take any honors or AP. You need some time to spend with your family and to eat and things like that. So we've allocated 14 hours per week, about 2 hours a day for those kinds of activities. You need a little time for relaxation. You need to sleep. And so the time that's available for all of the additional things that you're going to plan to do, and that would include honors and AP classes, clubs, sports, perhaps a part-time job, anything like that, you've got about 37 hours per week that you can commit to those kind of additional extracurricular activities. This app will help you see how what you're choosing adds up. So I'm going to pretend that I'm a hypothetical rising 10th grader. Okay, so I'm going to be in 10th grade next year. Perhaps I'm going to be taking Honors Algebra 2 and Honors Chemistry and AP European. Okay, notice that what I'm doing is I'm just placing a Y. It can be either upper or lowercase, but I'm placing a Y in the cell next to the class that I'm choosing. If you're not choosing any honors or AP classes, then you won't have anything to check here, and that's fine. Okay, so I've got the whole list of our classes. If you're a Global Scholars in 10th, 11th, 12th grade, then you could choose this. So maybe I am planning to enroll in the Global Scholars program, and so since I'll be in 10th grade, I'm going to select the Global Scholars for 10th grade. Also notice rising juniors and rising seniors. There are things here for you to put yes to, because the college application process takes a lot of time. And so if you are in the 11th or 12th, or rising to the 11th or 12th grade, you would want to select those. Okay, after classes, now I'm in the section for clubs. And now we have Sun, Moon, and Star clubs. Perhaps the Sun club that I want to participate in is mock trial. So I'm going to find that and put a yes next to it. And for my Moon club, I'd like to be involved in the Black Student Alliance. So I'll say that. And then for my Star club, I'm going to choose the Imagine Engineering Club. Okay, so that's my A, B, and C clubs. I'm not going to be involved in student government, and so I'm going to just bypass that category. Then we get into performing arts. And maybe I'm not going to do any performing arts, but then we get into sports, and I am on the riflery team. So I want to go down to riflery and select that. Okay. If I were going to have other activities. For example, perhaps I live in Mount Juliet, and so maybe my drive to school is 45 minutes each way. Okay, so that's an hour and a half a day that I'm spending commuting from home to school. 45 minutes in the morning, 45 minutes in the afternoon. I have to do that 5 days a week. And so 5 times an hour and a half is 7.5 hours. So I'm going to, that's a big time commitment. And so I'm going to put a yes next to 7 hours per week here. Or I could choose 8, but I'm going to round down to 7. Either was probably fine. Okay, I've now and if you had a part-time job, you could choose the hours per week that you're spending on that job. If you are involved in a sport, like for example dance at Harding, you could choose the hours per week that you spend in that activity. Okay, so this other gives you the flexibility to account for time commitments outside of Harpeth Hall activities. Okay, after I've put Y's next to all of my planned classes and clubs and other activities, I'm going to click on the tab here for the graph of time commitments. And I'll see this is showing me a histogram of all of the hours week by week during the school year that I am committed to for my classes and activities. The horizontal line here is the point of overcommitment. So, I explained at the beginning that we have about 37 hours per week that we can spend on extracurriculars, and there are 5 weeks during the year when the things that I'm planning to participate in are going to ask more from me than just those 37 hours. And so, and it's showing me about the time during the year. So about 6 to 7 weeks into the school year is when I'm going to face that first real-time crunch. And then later in second semester, around week 30-31, I'm going to face another real-time crunch where what I'm participating in is going to ask a lot of me. In these weeks, something is going to have to give if I'm going to do everything that I'm trying to do. So maybe for those couple of weeks, I'll have to maybe try to do homework while I'm eating dinner. Maybe I won't have any real relaxation time for those 2 weeks. Maybe I won't be able to sleep 8 hours a night for those 2 weeks. And it's really your decision of whether you will be able to handle that time crunch or not. So there are a couple of options. One is you could look at this and say, well, for those brief periods, a couple of weeks at a time, I'm just going to do what I have to do. I understand that I'll be stressed for a couple of weeks, but I will handle that in order to be able to participate in all the things that I want to do. Or you might look at this and say, gosh, that's almost 20 hours a week over what's reasonable time commitment. I'm not sure I can do that. So then you could go back to the first tab and unselect something and see how that changes your hours. Okay, this graph is bar-coded, so you can see the academic requirements. And again, this is academic hours over and above the approximately 16 hours per week that normal classes would require. So since I have checked 3 either honors or AP classes, you can see that I'm spending 4 or 5 hours extra most weeks because of the additional reading and workload of those classes. My clubs, I've chosen mock trial, which is a very demanding club. If I were to go back and change and say, well, maybe I won't do mock trial this year, maybe I'll choose a different A club, maybe I'll do Act Now instead. Then so I've made that change. I can go back to the graph of time and look. Now my hours are very reasonable for everything that I'm planning to do. So I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't do the mock trial, but but I just think you should consider, if you did mock trial and you're going, in this particular scenario, would you be able to handle a couple of weeks where you have very, very heavy time commitments? And so you can go back and try several different scenarios and then make your final decision of what you're going to do.